Tonight, on First at 9 this Friday, the 4th of July 2025. Empowering the impoverished. Praash Shakti national program aimed at eradicating rural poverty ceremoniously launched today. Institutional independence. Government officials should not entertain needs of politicians, urges Director General of the Bribery Commission. Further claims that bribery has become Sri Lanka's new normal. The gavel strikes. 3 DMP officials suspected to have accepted bribes worth 4 million granted bail. Travel ban imposed on the trio. Cuffed. Former Minister S.M. Chandrasena joins long list of former ministers nabbed by the Bribery Commission.
Cinec Campus Open Day. May masa 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට Cinec Campus පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Enrolling now for the June 2025 intake and complete your degree in 2 years.
Men, Paladins, Jovita, Baleak.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Drisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now, in your top story tonight, President Anurukumara Dissanayake highlights that education can be a key impetus to advance the economic status of Sri Lanka's most impoverished communities. To that end, the President called for renewed efforts to enhance access to education. Speaking at the launch of Praash Shakti national program today, the President further stresses that the government and its officials have a clear responsibility to ensure that welfare benefits reach the correct target groups.
Praash Shakti, a national program aimed at eradicating rural poverty and uplifting local communities, was officially launched today at Temple Trees under the patronage of President Anurukumara Dissanayake and Prime Minister Dr. Haruni Amarasuriya. During the event, the official website of the Praash Shakti program was also launched. At the national level, the Praash Shakti National Policy Council has been set up, chaired by the President and comprising 9 ministers. The convener of the National Policy Council is the Minister of Rural Development, Social Security and Community Empowerment, Professor Upali Panilage.
මුළු ලෝක ජනගහනය හරි අඩක් නාගරික වුණත්
Even though half of the total world population is urban, 80% of the same population is impoverished. In our country, rural poverty has been a topic of discussion for many decades and numerous efforts were implemented to address it. According to the facts and figures, in the year 2000, 1.1 million people relied on welfare. By the time our government was formed last year, this number had risen to 1.8 million. These statistics indicate that the impoverished population has been increasing despite a significant number of programs aimed at eradicating poverty. Although world population is rapidly urbanizing, approximately 79% of our country's citizens live in rural areas or in the central hills. When the NPP formulated its policies, the eradication of rural poverty was a key focus. Through this program, we aim to achieve key targets and have planned to commence those efforts soon. We will establish community development councils in every Grama Niladhari division and prepare community development plans by integrating all line ministries and provincial councils. Every step has been prepared to launch this program in the grassroots.
ආරම්භ කිරීමට අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු මේ වෙන විට සැලසුම් කරලා තිබෙනවා.
දුප්පත් බව එක පැත්තකින් ආර්ථික ප්‍රශ්නයක් අනිත් පැත්තෙන් සමාජ ඛේදවාචකයක්.
Poverty is not just an economic problem but a social tragedy. That is why the government's main task must be to eradicate rural poverty. We must create new economic opportunities for people as well. One of the most effective tools for poverty eradication is education. If even one child in a family completes their education, that family has a greater chance of achieving success. Therefore, we must continue to expand access to education. Recently, many have begun to claim that welfare is bad. That is not the case. If a certain community is in need, it is the government's duty to take care of them assiduously. However, this responsibility has at times been misused as a political tool to turn people into political activists. To prevent this, we plan to establish a strong data system to identify the most suitable recipients. This year, the government has allocated 230 billion rupees for the Aswasuma program, with additional funds set aside for other welfare initiatives. However, the real issue lies in whether the intended beneficiaries are actually receiving these benefits and whether the outcomes meet expectations. Unfortunately, the answer at the moment is no. Therefore, the government and its officials have a clear responsibility to ensure that welfare benefits reach the correct target groups. We also assure you that we will not allow anyone to misuse that responsibility. It is true that a significant portion of the state apparatus has become outdated. Many vehicles owned by state officials are over a decade old. Most office computers are obsolete and buildings are deteriorating. We simply walk into these places like ordinary citizens. We must transform the state. There is no point in having outdated leadership in charge of a failing system. Within this modernized state apparatus, we need new government employees with new skills and energy. Our goal is not to continue the old system, but to rebuild a bankrupt state by bringing together political authority, the state apparatus and the public in a joint effort.
රාජ්‍ය ආන්තරණය පොදු පුරවැසියා ඒකාබද්ධ මෙහෙයුමකට ගේන්න ඕන.
චන්දුරුසුමේ කාගෙන් මනාපේ සිංහ TV සඳහා සුපිරි ඩීල්.
යාඩියා ලොව වැඩියෙන්ම අලෙවි වන ඉලෙක්ට්‍රික් ස්කූටරය අවාන්ස් ඔටෝ වෙතින්.
Now, meanwhile, leader of the Sarvajana Balaya, Dilith Jayavira, reveals a purported World Bank decision to withdraw from funding 25% of Sri Lanka's Aswasuma welfare scheme in light of the government's decision to further expand the welfare program. Speaking at an event in Uwaparnagama today, the Sarvajana Balaya's leader further claims that this is the worst political and economic era in Sri Lanka's 77 years since independence.
An awareness program for female entrepreneurs was held today in Himiliagahamaritha in Uwa Paranagama under the patronage of leader of the Sarvajana Balaya parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira. The session was organized as part of the new Sarvajana Sabha concept espoused by the Sarvajana Balaya.
Sri Lanka is at its worst economic predicament since independence. People can disagree, but that is the bitter truth. We can mask the dire constraints grappling Sri Lanka at the moment by spinning elaborate tales. But the fact of the matter is that Sri Lanka has fallen down an insurmountable precipice. Sri Lanka's greatest curse is the Samurdhi and Aswasuma schemes. Even if this costs me my political career, I must say that these schemes are not going to work. 25% of the 242 billion rupees incurred to fund Aswasuma is financed by debt taken from the World Bank. The incumbent government seeks to expand this scheme. They are looking for more beneficiaries. I got to know recently that the World Bank wanted to pull out from funding Aswasuma in light of the government's arbitrary decisions. Is this the end of the 76-year curse that everybody yearned for? Is this the long-awaited spring of hope? Is this the most prosperous era in Sri Lanka's history? This is the worst political chapter of Sri Lanka's 77 years since independence.
සිනෙක් කැම්පස් ඕපන් ඩේ මැයි මස 3 වැනි දින උදෑසන 9 සිට සිනෙක් කැම්පස් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Apico Next Gen. Make the leap to faster sleep.
Now, opposition leader Sajjit Premadasa accused the current government of reneging on the promises made to the public in the lead-up to the presidential and parliamentary elections. Drawing attention to the government's recent decision to hike fuel prices and electricity tariffs, the opposition leader claims that the government is taking decisions contrary to the public interest in a desperate attempt to meet obligations imposed by the IMF.
At a ceremony in Eppavala today, leader of the opposition and the SJB Sajjit Premadasa officially appointed organisers representing the Samagi Jana Balawegaya in 120 polling divisions within Mihintale.
The 22 million people of Sri Lanka have only one political alternative left. That is the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. We must be ready to take on the responsibility of this nation at any time in the future. I say this because Sri Lanka is heading towards an ominous future. The The IMF was reluctant to release the fourth tranche under the extended fund facility since Sri Lanka failed to meet the benchmarks set by the global lender. However, just recently the government revealed that the fourth tranche will be released soon. Why did the IMF suddenly decide to release the fourth tranche? The decision to release the fourth tranche was consequent to the government hiking up the prices of fuel and electricity. All these are obligations imposed by the IMF. I remind you that they increased the electricity tariffs they swore they would reduce. They also increased the prices of fuel, which they swore they would decrease. By hiking up those prices, they betrayed the trust placed in them by the people. The three officials of the Department of Motor Traffic who were arrested over allegations of accepting 4 million rupees in bribes were released on bail today. However, Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali imposed a travel ban on the trio. The suspects are also prohibited from entering the DMT premises.
3 suspects were recently arrested over allegations of accepting nearly 4 million rupees in bribes from applicants seeking to obtain driving licenses. The arrestees included the Deputy Commissioner of the Motor Traffic Department's Narahenpita branch. The trio was subsequently presented before the Colombo Chief Magistrate, with President's Counsel Salia Piris and President's Counsel Anuja Premadasa appearing on behalf of the suspects. After submissions were made by the Defence Counsel, Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali ordered that each suspect be released on 2 surety bonds of 2 million rupees each and 1 cash bill of 25,000 rupees. The Colombo Chief Magistrate also imposed an overseas travel ban on the suspects and prohibited them from entering the premises of the Department of Motor Traffic. During the hearing, officers from the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption drew the court's attention to the erasure of CCTV footage recorded on a DVR machine at the premises from the 9th of April to the 29th of May. The court was further informed that the machine in question has been sent to the University of Moratuwa for further technical analysis. Accordingly, after considering the facts presented, the Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali scheduled the next hearing to be held on the 28th of November. In the meantime, former Deputy Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Motor Traffic Surya Priyangani Sirimana filed a petition seeking an order preventing the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption from arresting her on unjust grounds over the illegal entry of data pertaining to a vehicle onto the department's system. The relevant petition was filed yesterday. Consequently, Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali set the application for consideration on the 8th of July and also ordered the former Deputy Assistant Commissioner of the Department of Motor Traffic to appear in court for the next hearing. In other developments concerning law and order, Defence Counsel appearing for the neurosurgeon who is suspected to have sold medicine unlawfully through a third party were ordered to submit their case for the granting of bail on the 8th of July. The relevant order comes off the heels of an objection taken up by the Bribery Commission to a motion filed by President's Counsel Maitri Gunaratne to release the suspect in question on bail.
Now, on the same front, Director General of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, Ranga Dissanayake, claims that certain actions, though sanctioned by the Cabinet, remains unlawful if such decisions are taken with corrupt intentions. He further calls on all government workers to resist blind devotion to the political class and promise to not take legal action against government workers acting in good faith.
The second annual general meeting of Semi-Government Executive Officers Union was held today at the Foundation Institute in Colombo under the patronage of the Director General of the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption.
No country in the world believes that they can change society by simply apprehending and punishing those who commit crimes. There should be a change in attitudes, certainly. Recently, we confiscated 4.1 million rupees in the possession of a Deputy Commissioner of the Department of Motor Traffic. Those were some extraordinary circumstances. We received reports that officers attached to the Department of Motor Traffic funnel money into a common pool. The 4.1 million rupees corresponded to the money collected fraudulently throughout the week. The relevant officials will then appropriate the money. We have evidence to prove this fact. I reveal this to you to illustrate how far fraud and corruption has spread within Sri Lanka. It has been normalized to the extent where those involved in it are not aware that they are soliciting bribes. In recent times, certain government workers are committing crimes that could result in their incarceration. One could say that those actions were a result of policy decisions taken by the government, also referred to as cabinet decisions. Government workers may think that they can do anything if it is sanctioned by by the cabinet. However, if the cabinet decision was taken with corrupt intentions, then the decision will not be lawful. There is an ongoing matter concerning the import of medicine against a former minister. There are cabinet papers to back up the former minister's claims. There is another case related to fertilizer. The import of organic fertilizer caused a $6.9 million loss to the government, but the transaction was done subsequent to cabinet approval. Now government workers may panic and be concerned on how they can take any decision. I have a simple answer to give you. You will not be penalized for any decision taken in good faith. There is another trait within government servants that we must rectify. We must set up a state sector that does not blindly follow politicians. If somebody claims that they implemented a certain decision based on ministerial orders given verbally, he should not be held responsible for its adverse consequences. Most such orders by ministers are given verbally. Politicians are smarter than government workers. There are certain government workers who took action against such orders by ministers. I cannot reveal further details on this. Some had simply noted down the time and date such verbal orders were given by the ministers concerned. They know that the order is unlawful, but they have no choice but to abide by it. Such government workers were never arrested by us. I must pass on an important message to Sri Lanka's state sector, since some may use these incidents to defend inaction. They fear arrest by the Bribery Commission and use that fear to justify their inaction. We will not make such arrests. We will clearly look into the reasons behind the orders implemented and the actions taken. Former Minister S.M. Chandrasena was arrested early today by the Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption. The arrest was made when the former minister arrived at the Commission to record statements regarding the alleged loss of 25 million rupees caused to the government by the improper distribution of maize seeds in the lead-up to the 2015 presidential election. Chandrasena was produced before the Colombo Chief Magistrate's Court this afternoon. Afterwards, Colombo Chief Magistrate Tanuja Lakmali ordered the suspect to be held in remand custody until the 18th of July. At the center of political attention today was the recent spate of gun violence that has gripped Sri Lanka. The situation is very serious. Shootings occur at locations frequently visited by the people. Nobody cares about CCTV cameras anymore. Even if you mount video cameras by the streets, assailants wouldn't care. What is apparent through all this is that these gunmen don't care about any measures implemented for public safety. We see no response by the government to this dire situation. I don't know if there are any internal discussions on this matter. However, at the moment, a shooting or two occur every day. The underworld is not something that manifested overnight. The contemporary syndicates of organized crime evolved to what it is today after former President J.R. Jayawardena pardoned Sottupalli in 1977. The underworld and gangs therein prospered for over 50 years. Today it has evolved into a sophisticated enterprise where underworld dons can lead their gangs from countries abroad, including Dubai. We will definitely put an end to organized crime. We only need time. Who will take responsibility for the shooting in Kahavatta? Are probes in place to determine the individual responsible? Have the authorities identified those responsible for the shooting in Kandana? Recently, an assailant walked into court and shot a suspect on the dock. Have all those responsible in that regard been nabbed? Given all this, is it not right to say that the government has failed to ensure national security? How can they say they will put an end to organized crime? At the moment, we are trying to find the Deputy Minister of Defence. Despite his boastful remarks in the past, he is nowhere to be found. The incumbent government is extremely incompetent. They can only tout tall tales. If that is not the case, so many people would not be shot dead on the streets. Those incidents will die down soon. When the government attempts to control the proliferation of organized crime, the top heads of these gangs hide themselves. When law enforcement relaxes its grip on these gangs, they soon resort to their old habits. Then the government will take measures again to snuff out these gangs. If the government whacks these gangs twice or thrice, this issue will be resolved for good. With that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
Upul Amarjit Ratnayaka, alias Army Upul, an alleged criminal attached to organised crime, was shot dead by two unidentified gunmen in Batuwatha Ragama. The victim died on the spot after being shot an estimated 25 times. Army Upul had recently been released on bail after being charged over the possession of narcotics and a grenade. Investigations revealed that he was once close to underworld figures Ganemulla Sanjeeva and Konda Ranjit. Meanwhile, Samagi Janabalawegaya MP Chitral Fernando appeared at the Criminal Investigation Department this morning to follow up on a complaint he had lodged in January. The complaint pertains to the release of containers from Sri Lanka customs without undergoing proper inspection. In other local news, a man operating a mobile phone shop at the Mahayangane private bus stand was arrested yesterday by the Mahayangane police for selling crystal methamphetamine and narcotic substances. The arrest was made based on information received from an informant. During the operation, 4 of the youths found in possession of crystal methamphetamine and cannabis were also taken into custody.
Welcome back. Now in your business news, the Colombo Stock Exchange closed in positive territory as a result of price gains in counters such as John Keel's Holdings, Melster Corp and Commercial Bank. The benchmark all-share price index increased by 0.26% to settle at 18,148.34 points. Meanwhile, the more liquid S&P Sri Lanka 20 gained 0.35 points to close at 5,366.03. Market turnover crossed 6.7 billion rupees. The food and staples retailing sector was the top contributor to turnover, followed by the capital goods sector. Furthermore, foreigners closed as net buyers, offloading shares worth 1.15 billion rupees. Now let's take a look at the day's foreign exchange rates. Now in international business news, President Donald Trump said Washington will start sending letters to countries today specifying what tariff rates they will face on imports to the United States. Acknowledging the complexity of negotiating with over 170 nations, Trump told reporters yesterday that the letters will be sent to 10 to 12 countries today, laying out tariff rates such as 60% or 70% to 10% and 20%. Trump did not provide further details on which countries would get the tariffs or whether they would be targeted at certain goods and services. The Trump administration has so far announced deals with the UK and Vietnam and agreed to a truce with China after tariffs imposed on the world's second largest economy sparked a trade war. Trump sent markets into a tailspin on April 2nd with sweeping reciprocal tariffs, but temporarily reduced the tariff rate for most countries to 10% to allow time for negotiations through July 9th. That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.